You all for joining the Azure Arc Server Monthly Forum. Today we've got a really fun agenda planned for you all. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're going to share a server inventory opportunity with Maddie. Then we're going to have a deep dive into Windows Server hot patching capabilities with Vishal. And we'll be doing live demos of both ARM64 onboarding, including extensions with Stefano, and it scales solution onboarding from the Azure portal with George. So a lot of demos, a lot of preview opportunities planned for today. And we're excited to share all that's happening on the Arc server forum. And like shared in the chat, if you're going to be there at Ignite and want to connect, a number of folks from the Arc server and Arc product group are going to be there. So we would love to connect with you. And even if you're joining virtually and want to still connect with us, we're always happy to chat with our customers. So with that, before I hand it over to Maddie, one quick note of housekeeping, and that is Windows Server 2012 extended security updates. We've actually just reached, and I can't believe it, it's the end of year one of Windows Server 2012 ESU. So what does that mean? If you're an existing Arc customer already enrolled in Windows Server 2012 ESUs, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to re-provision licenses. You don't need to reactivate. It'll automatically continue your subscription month over month at that same cost. However, if you are a volume licensing customer, you need to transition to Azure Arc for year 2 of ESUs, which is an offer where you can specify your invoice ID at the time of provisioning your ESU license. And this will make sure you're exempt for back billing for year 1, and you can go from VL to year 2 on Arc. Otherwise, if you're continuing on VL, you'll need to reacquire your year 2 ESU MAC keys from volume licensing. So again, that's not automatic if you're a volume licensing customer. Now, if you are one of those transition scenario customers, please note that with the end of year 1 and the start of year 2s, we're now actually going to be starting to charge you for your Azure Arc ESU licenses. So you should be expected to start seeing some billing in your Azure accounts. With that, I'll be handing it over to Maddie, who's going to be sharing a little bit more about improving your server inventory and a great opportunity there to provide some direct feedback to the product group. Take it away, Maddie.
Hi, everyone. My name's Maddie. I'm also a product manager for Arc Server, and I'm looking to improve our server inventory experience. So what that means is a lot of different data is being collected depending on the various extensions you employ on your machine, as well as some hardware instance data collected from the Arc agent itself. So I really want to put this together in a more unified experience so that you can seamlessly access and query metadata across your fleet. We also want to grant more control to customers over what data is collected. So, this might mean you want to add additional custom metadata, and we want to support that, as well as supporting scenarios where you don't want to collect as much data. But in order to do this successfully, I want to hear from everyone. So I have a sign up here. I'll send the link in the chat. And there's also a QR code if your phone is handy. But if you sign up here, I will email you and set up a feedback session and really just learn about how you're currently using your server metadata, how we could improve on this, and just help you out with your day-to-day management capabilities. So thanks, everyone. Looking forward to hearing from some of you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Maddie. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop that in the chat, and we can also speak a little bit more to that. But with that, I'm going to hand it over to Vishal. So Vishal, do you want to start sharing there?
You can actually you can continue with this slide deck.
Okay,
or you want me to
perfect.
take?
Awesome. So Vishal will be sharing more about hot patch already.
One second, I'll just take, yep, go to the next slide. So I'm here to talk about hot patching, right? Before we get into hot patching, let's look at today's environment that we have, right? The threats, the security threats that we are facing today from cyber criminals or cyber threats is only increasing. the number of people trying to take your data is only increasing, right? There's added pressure on IT teams across the globe on how do we keep our users safe and our workloads running without any kind of an attack or vulnerability. And on top of it all, there are user disruptions involved whenever we are talking about, hey, let's patch the machines so that they are secure and we are keeping them safe. So there's additional pressure on IT teams specifically who have to deal with or juggle between all these items at the same time. And then we all know that we all have applications that are very old that whenever we try to restart, we are always praying like, hey, hopefully they come up well and we don't run into an issue. So we have a solution for that. If we go to the next slide. So we call it hot patching, right? And before we actually talk about hot patching, let's start with a quick demo. So if you can click Arnav on the demo. So here what we are doing is the setup is we have a machine where we'll be hot patching it. And if you see on the right hand side, there is a video that's playing. And on the right hand side bottom, you'll see the CPU count so that you know that there is no spike or anything that would happen. On the left hand side, we also kicked off the update scan. And this is all real time, right? It's happening all real time. We kicked off a scan and it's going to look out in the Windows update and go and try to pull the latest security update. And in the bottom left, you see that that's the version of the OS right now. So the update has started to download and actually have also started to install and is actually installed, right? That's it. In 30 seconds, we did the whole scan, download and install of a security update. And if you look at the OS version of your machine, it has actually increased to the latest update, which means your machine is secure. You did not have to run through and stop your applications. You didn't have to worry about, hey, should I take a backup of my machines? Now, who do you think would this be useful for? A lot of times you have these stateful machines that you don't want to take it offline, right? Because you don't know the state of the applications when they come up. You always have these connections that hang in there and you're waiting for that to drain out before you can start updating those machines. You also have to worry about the bandwidth or the capacity of your data centers, right? You have to make sure that, hey, is this something that you need to actually fail over? You have to fail over the applications, you have to do routing, you have to load balancing. I've done that in the past, so I know the pain of being up late nights trying to do this stuff years ago. I wish I had a tool like that where I could just download, install, and then there you go. No downtime. Your applications keep running and your machine is completely patched. Next slide, please. So hot patching is the ability to update your Windows machine servers without the need of a reboot. It brings your machine up to speed on the security updates that you need. It installs quickly. And the download, if you see the package itself, is very, very small, less than 10% of what you get in a general LCU that's released every patch Tuesday or the second Tuesday of every month by Windows Server. So now you have ability to not only improve your security posture, but do it in a way that does not disrupt your users from using the workloads that's running on your servers. Next slide. So I don't know if you need to keep clicking on this, but basically the way this works, right? You'd say, okay, is this magic? Is this happening every month? And so what happens is we actually, if you think of your traditional workflow that you have today, right? You have your every second Tuesday of a month, you would actually get a security update that contains all the cumulative security updates to that date, plus all the non-security updates as well to that date. Okay, that happens each and every month. And because of the time it takes to bring down those machines and start to patch the machines and bring them up and do all your testing, generally you are 30 to 60 days out before your machines are patched, or even longer if you have critical applications that are running that cannot take a reboot. Think of your factory floor, right, where you're actually running these machines and you really can't bring down these machines because every minute, every hour can cost you millions of dollars of lost productivity, right? That's your traditional model that you have, you know, right? What we are saying is like, hey, we can actually help you save some of those reboots over a period of time. For example, what we generally follow is like in January, we always start with a baseline month. That means you take your non-security updates, you take your security updates, and you're all up to date. In February, if you opt into hot patching, you actually get your security updates that is on top of your January update in Feb. In March, we again give you a hot patch, right? Which is again does not cause you a reboot, makes your machine secure. And then in April, we allow you to again go back and install your cumulative update that gets you back up to speed with all your non-security fixes that your computer may be needing, right? That way your machine remains secure throughout the period without needing a reboot. It makes you move faster because now imagine that patch Tuesday, you have a machine, your patch comes out, you test it on a weekday or like on Friday or something on a couple of machines, and then the next week or even on the weekend, you can just roll it out because you don't have to worry about a window of bringing the machines down and letting your customers know, hey, there'll be disruption, right? You can simply go and install the hot patch updates and move on. Now, what it does not include, it does not include your non-security fixes that I talked about. Hot patches will not contain your non-security fixes. It is based off your baseline month. So January is a baseline month, April will be a baseline month. So it is a 3-month cycle where the hot patches are built off the last baseline that was released. For example, May would only install on an April baseline. It will not install on a January baseline. So that is the cadence we actually follow. Now, we prioritize the security of your machines. So, which means that if we find a vulnerability that we cannot hot patch, we will ensure that that hot patch month would be declared a baseline month as well to make sure that your machines are secure. So you can always be you can be rest assured that you will have 100% parity between your cold patch and your hot patch, right? Your February or local LCU that you are known to install versus a hot patch in Feb that keeps your machine secure. They are 100% parity, right? You can be so you're not off from compliance perspective. Next slide. And one other important piece was they hot patches only contain your OS security updates, right? It does not contain your driver update. It does not contain your .NET update. It just contains the OS component updates. So we've been doing this hot patching for a while now, right? We've been using this in our Azure cloud. We have been using this in Server 2022 Data Center Azure editions, which are available even today for production use in Azure, right? Going forward, as we look forward to Server 2025 coming out in the future, we already have previews out for you to test this for Azure Edition in Azure. At the same time, one of the biggest things that we have heard from customers whenever we went to talk to them and evangelize hot patching and say how beautiful and useful it will be for them, they said, bring it to us, bring it where we are, right? Don't just keep it in the cloud. And so what we've done is we've actually brought it down and we said, okay, if you have an Azure Arc connection to your machine on your own premise or on third-party cloud, you can still get hot patches. You can get the benefits of hot patching now going forward. The preview has been out. Hari actually posted a blog announcing this particular great feature, and it is available for you to use today. So one of the other things that you can also think about this one is it is available on other clouds and also bare metal, right? So this is available. We are planning that, hey, this goes out as soon as we GA the product. So stay tuned. So the other thing I would also like to share, I'd like to share my screen and quickly show you how it looks like on the Arc portal. So give me 1 second. I'll just share my screen. Let me know if you can see it.
Oh, we can see it. Thank you.
Awesome. Perfect. So this is an Azure Arc portal, and I think you all are very familiar with opening up the management plane for your particular machine, which is connected to Azure Arc. Now, with Azure Arc, you get multiple different features that light up for you to use, right? Based on your scenario, you could say, hey, I would love to use hot patching, right? Currently, it's under preview. You will see this card, the functionality card for hot patching underneath. When you click on it, right now for me, it's enabled because my machine was connected. But for you, it will just show up that this is available to you. You can click on that card. A window pops up on the right-hand side, right? And here, what you would see is, you would see that this particular, what's the benefit of this feature? And you will have an option to select the box and confirm for you to be subscribed to the hot patching feature, right? One of the biggest prerequisite for this is that you need to have virtualization based security turned on. So if you don't have virtualization based security turned on your machine, or it's not running, then you need to ensure that that's running before you subscribe to hot patching. This portal has been actually made intelligent enough that if you do not have VBS on or running on your machine, it will not allow you to subscribe to hot patching. So we definitely adhere to that, because remember, we for running hot patching, we are basically loading your fixed functions, right, into the memory so that your running processes can access the fixed code at runtime without needing to go and take a reboot before you can fetch the latest one from the disk. So that is why we use secure kernel, we use other technologies in the OS to make this happen. And so virtualization based security definitely has to be turned on. So, and if you are saying, or say you don't want to have hot patching anymore, and you say, okay, I don't really care about it anymore for some reason, you can always turn it off. You can check off this box and you can confirm and you'll be unsubscribed. So this makes it available to you where you are with Server 2025 today. Are we happy to take any questions if you have on the chat? I don't know, Arnav, if the scenarios they can come off mic, but I'll be available, hanging out for questions.
Yep, I can read aloud a few quick questions. I think one is about, are you going to have support for WSUS and Azure Update Manager, and what are the requirements in terms of what patching solutions you can use with this?
So that's a very good question. And that's something that we would love a lot of feedback from the community. And as vocal as you can be would be much better and much appreciated, to be honest with you. Because what we are going with the hero scenario is AUM would support this, because AUM is supporting this already for Azure VMs today in Azure. And so we are going with the hero scenario of AUM to be available at the time when we GA. But we do encourage all the configuration tool to be able to do this. And if there are blockers for the config tool not to use it, then we need to know that, right? So that we can make it available.
Another question that we have is, this is only available for 2025 today. Are you going to be supporting 2019 and 2022, basically down level?
So the current plan is to only support it on Server 2025. If something changes, then we will definitely let the community know. We are seeing that Server 2025 adoption is increasing even for the eval version, and we are currently, the plan is to go only with Server 2025. 2022 Azure Edition is already available for hot patching on Azure. And as we see customer needs, we might change the position. But at the moment, the only plan we have, plan of record that we are considering, is only Server 2025.
Awesome. And I think one last question was, are these specific to the OS updates, or does it also include other apps or workloads like Office, SQL, MD, etc.?
So we are talking about your cumulative updates that you get every second Tuesday of the month, right? Traditionally, these only cover your OS updates only. They don't cover your Office updates, your SQL updates, or any other updates that are coming to your machine, right? They're coming through different channels. And so for now, today, they are only covering your OS component updates, right? So if you have, say, Office running on it, or if you have Defender running on it, right? Those are coming through a different channel, and like Defender does not need an update, right? So based on how the updates are coming into you, they will be a separate channel. They are not part of the hot patch program.
And finally, we have one last question. Len, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Oh, yeah, perfect. Thank you. Vishal, I was just wondering if I enabled the Arc for the on-premises vSphere, and right now I looked at one of the machine, I don't see the hot patches there. Is it supported, or I just didn't do something right?
Can you say vSphere? What
Yeah.
is Arnav,
So
would you know what is
on-premises with
vSphere?
VMware,
Oh,
and I enable the breach source, right? The resource breach. So now I see all of my on-premises VM via vSphere. I clicked on one of the machines. I don't see this hot patches at all.
are you
What is
like
the
so?
edition of the VM, if you don't mind asking? Is it Windows Server 2025, standard or data center
2022.
edition? So it should be Windows Server 2025, right? Standard or data center
Oh,
edition of Val. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you, guys. Okay, thank you. That's what I
Yeah,
missed.
then
Thank you so
so
much again.
yeah, but that's a very good scenario, Len. So if you would test with an evaluation server, like Server 25 evaluation, just set it up and then see if you at least get the option. If you're not getting an option, please let us know. And that could be a bug that you're not seeing on Server 25. But if that's the scenario, please let us know. We want to help there, right? And one more thing, this would be a per server subscription, right? That means even if like you have a ton of guest VMs on a host machine and the host machine you're connected to Arc and you say, okay, I'm done. No, for each guest VM too, you would need to have your Arc connection.
Got it. Beautiful. Thank you so much again. Appreciate this.
No problem, Len. Mark?
Yeah, thank you. So the hot patching is of interest to us, I think, as we start to move more towards 2025, and it's kind of like maybe a carrot on a stick for the customers to adopt it. The problem as I see it is for operating system updates, that finds to have that maybe that quarterly reboot. But in between that, if we have vulnerabilities come out for Office or other applications, we're potentially going to hot patch the server and then need to reboot it anyway. So the hot patching maybe just gives us speed to apply it rather than mitigating the reboot. Is there a way within AUM to defer that? So I can say for the first 3 months, I want a hot patch. And then on the 4th month, unless there's something very nasty that comes out, I want to do a reboot, rebaseline and patch Office and SQL and other applications.
Mark, that's a wonderful question, I would say. So, the goal of hot patching is not necessarily to avoid reboots, right? I would say hot patching is an ability for you to improve your security posture faster, right? Because you know that you have vulnerabilities that come out that are very, very destructive for your organization. And then we have to scramble to figure out how do we do load balancing and everything before we can actually patch the machines. So in those scenarios, we give you the agility to be able to move faster. We are trying to see how the whole ecosystem can ultimately come together to align to a rhythm where we can allow you to be safe and secure without needing a reboot over a long period. But that's the North Star, right? We are aligning that already with .NET teams and saying, hey, if possible, let's align your updates with your baseline ones so that we are promising, we are actually not promising, but I would say we are keeping your value proposition of moving faster with security and also not having to take a reboot so quickly. Right. So we are aligning those teams. We are aligning even externally, trying to say, hey, this is where Microsoft is thinking and moving with hot patching. It'll be really nice if we all can actually align to that rhythm, giving enough space every 3 months or 4 months for customers to then take a reboot, because you reboot for many other reasons other than just the updates, could be your application patching and everything else. So our goal from hot patching perspective is just improve your agility to secure faster.
And thank you for that. And one last question, we talk about the reboots. If a server is in a pending state from requiring a reboot from a previous patch, is it still able to hot patch? Or does that
No,
reboot
then
need to happen first?
it will realize that you need a patch, you need to do a reboot before you can actually apply the hot patch. Very, very good
Excellent.
question.
Yeah,
So
and that's good. That maybe helps us build up that agility for deploying them quickly, and maybe we take the reboot out of the picture for the moment. But thank you.
exactly. And if you say are not on the right baseline, right? Well, I talked about, hey, January is the baseline for taking the security update because these are all delta, right? So think of these are less than 10% of your actual payloads. So you need to be on the right baseline. And say you're not on the right baseline, and say you have Feb as a hot patch month, March as a hot patch month, and in March you realize, oh my God, I need to install a hot patch, but I'm not in my January update. Then you as an IT admin or administrator can say, oh, doesn't make sense for me to take a hot patch because I need to install a January update. I need to install then a March hot patch update. And then April, I have a cold patch or a baseline, right? So you'll know I don't care about hot patch at the moment. I just install March because I'm taking a reboot anyways, right? So So that's where the flexibility comes for you to make those decisions. And if you have a machine that needs to be updated for some reason in March, then you say, okay, instead of taking an update in like a hot patch, I would just take a cold patch and put in my app updates or whatever updates you are planning to put on it. Arnav is looking at the time to make sure.
No, this is awesome. Thank you so much, Vishal. It was a really cool update and demo, pun intended, on Hot Patch. Very, very cool. And now, another pun, we'll hand it over to Stefano, who's going to be sharing more about ARM64 capabilities, which you likely saw with our release notes. And so he's going to be showing that in action and sharing more about our plans to introduce support for ARM64. So Stefano, I'll let you take it away and take control to share a little demo and updates there.
Awesome. Thank you, Arnav. So hello, everybody. As Arnav mentioned, I'm Stefano. I'm an engineer on the Arc for Servers team, and I am here to talk about our ARM64 support for Arc. So as many of you may or may not know, until very recently, Arc for Servers has only supported servers running on the x86-64 architecture. And with the latest 1.46 release in September, we introduced ARM64 support. So I'm going to be demoing onboarding a server and some of the capabilities that come with that. So this is the Azure Arc blade in the portal that I'm sure many of you are already familiar with. And onboarding an ARM64 server is the exact same as you're used to. There's no additional weird steps or anything like that. You can just go into add resources, add a machine, add a server. And so select your subscription resource group, all that. And this will generate the script that you can use for onboarding. So I'll go here, download that. And now here I have an ARM64 machine in AWS. So if I do here, you can say we're running on the ARM64 architecture, and now I can run the onboarding script. And this will install the agent and connect it to Azure Arc for us. Let me do the authentication. Awesome. So now you can see that we connected to Azure. And if I do AZCM agent connect, oops. Or sorry, show. There we go. You can see we're connected, and we can hit the link to take us to the portal page. And so now our server has been onboarded to Azure Arc, and with that, we can leverage all of the Azure management capabilities that come along with that. So for example, we can go down to monitoring, insights, and one of the most frequently used features is monitoring. So let's go ahead and demo that. So we can go here. I already have a data collection rule set up, and we can hit configure, and this will install the monitoring agent onto our server and then start collecting data. If I go over here to extensions, we'll give that a second. So you can see it's now deploying the Azure Monitor agent onto our machine. In the interest of time, I won't make us all wait here and wait for this to deploy. So I already have another server set up with the Azure Monitor agent installed. And so if you had waited for that to complete, you can now come down to Insights and go over here and see that we are collecting all the data that our data collection rule was set up to collect. And we can see our CPU utilization, memory, all that fun stuff. And then, for example, if you wanted to use the update manager, you can do that as well. You can scan for updates, set up automatic updates, all that. So yeah, that's it. Just wanted to quickly demo that Azure Arc now supports ARM64 servers. And for now, as of right now, it supports SUSE Enterprise Linux 15 and Amazon Linux 2023. However, with the upcoming October release, we will be expanding support to Ubuntu 20, Ubuntu 22, Ubuntu 24, Amazon Linux 2, and Azure Linux or CBL Mariner 2.0 as well. So thank you.
Awesome. And one more question. Where can customers find where our latest distros are supported, including whether or not they support ARM64?
Yes, definitely. So if you go over to this link, which I will paste in the chat as well, this is our page which shows all of our platform support. And if you look at this little chart down here, supported operating systems, you'll see all the OSs we support, and then there's a little column here for ARM64 support. So like I mentioned, right now we have Amazon Linux 2023 and SLES 15, and in the future we will be expanding this to include many more ARM64 platforms. And if there are any that you are interested in, please reach out. Any specific interest will definitely be something that we look into. So that is all I have. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Any questions, folks? Please feel free to raise your hands if you have any questions. All right. Thank you, Stefano. And I think that there were some distro requests in the chat. So let you follow up on those. Great. With that, we have one last demo planned for today, and that's going to be from George with at-scale solution onboarding. So this is a really exciting demo for a new capability that's in preview that you'll be able to test out soon. So George, if you want to take it away and screen share here.
Yes, I do. Let me share my screen. Hello, everyone. My name is George Eninfo. I'm a PM on Arc for Servers. And so like Arnav mentioned, the newest capability that we have and are still working on is allows customers to onboard management services at scale. So currently, when a customer onboards via on-premise or multi-cloud server to Azure, there are multiple steps that they need to take to be able to onboard these servers. So let me take this example. Once you've onboarded a machine to Azure, you can see that in the overview there are several management services. So you have to individually enable these, and it's not very convenient. And so what this functionality that we've built allows customers to do is to give them the ability to onboard multiple, many of these management services at one time. And so for this, the purposes of this demo, I will be using two machines, these two here. And so if you look at the first machine that I have, Georgie VM West, and you go to extensions, you can tell that there are no extensions installed on this machine. And then the second one, VM Sent. When you go to extensions, I believe there's still one extension there. And so when you navigate to the machines browse view where you can see all your machines, you select, making sure you have the right subscription and resource group and all that. You can select one or more. And so I go ahead and select these two. And then you can tell that before I selected, currently, if you look in the portal, the option on the command bar here, the option to enable management services does not exist. But for this demo, you can tell that this option exists here, but it's not enabled until I select the management service, the service of interest. So now that I've selected, this option is now active so that a customer can click to enable the management services. So over here, you can see on the management services tab, You can see 3 services at the moment. There are 2 more that we're working on. And so as soon as, and then Hot Patch, which Vishal just talked about, that's also going to land over here. And so as soon as they're ready, we will add them here. Essentially, each row represents a management service. And so we have the management services of interest here, some description. We're going to skip this because there's some work we're doing here. And then there is the eligibility column and then configurations. And so when you're looking here, for example, you can tell there is Defender for Cloud does not have any checkbox here. The reason being that on the servers that I showed, the 2 servers that I have here, Defender is enabled on the subscription level. And so when you have subscription level, in this, we're not going to allow you to overwrite. And so it's not available. And you can also tell from the eligibility column that it says that zero machines are available or are valid for this. So you can click on that to actually find out like why. And it tells you that Defender is already configured on these 2 machines. So to proceed, you need to select which machines you want, which management services you want to apply to the machines that you selected. And so I will select these 2. And it's telling me that I need to finish configuring Azure Monitor Insight and change tracking before I can proceed. And so to configure, I come over here under the configuration column, click on Edit. And it gives me an option to select a log analytics workspace if I have one. If I don't have one, I can just click on Create New and create one real quick. It's very simple. Okay. So now it's telling me, since I did it for Azure Monitor, it's telling me to do the same for change tracking. And so I come to change tracking. Okay, I've done that as well here. And I showed you the eligibility for Defender for Cloud. For Azure Monitor, if you remember, the 2 machines that I showed you, this one had no extensions at all, but this other one here, the VM Sent, had 1 extension. And so when you come in here, you can tell that it's saying that one of the selected machines are valid. And so you can, if you want more information, you can click, and then it shows you that this is not valid. The VM Sense is not, has monitoring already configured, whereas the VM West is not. So now that I've done this selection here, I click on Next. And this lands you to the Review tab where you can review the selections you made previously to make sure that everything is good before you proceed. And so it's telling you the same information I pretty much said before, that one of the machines will have the action performed on for Azure Monitor, and for change tracking, both machines will have that. And so I can open the accordion to get details. And this is the log analytics workspace that I selected, and the machine that this change will apply to, because VM, the VM Central or VM Send already had monitoring installed. And then when you come to change tracking and inventory, the management services will be enabled on both machines. So at this point, we're good to go. And we click on Enable. So this will take up to 10 minutes. And when it's finally done, and we go back to, so now that we've clicked on these, if I go to extensions and I refresh, pretty soon it's going to show an entry that the extensions are being installed, but the status would show creating. And then when it's finally done, the correct status will be updated. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. Can you remember that this initially had nothing, had no extensions, but right now it's showing that 2 of them are in the creating phase. And if we go to this, it would also show like another one. So it's just a matter of time, but I don't want us to wait on this. I see a hand in the, please go ahead. I'm unable to hear you talking.
Sorry.
You can see.
Yeah. Ricardo, could you please put your question in the chat?
Sorry, can you hear me better?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. When you were onboarding to the service, it said you had Defender enabled, but wouldn't that mean you would have the Defender extension here? Right?
Yes. Okay. So when I installed, maybe something is wrong. When I first onboarded, there were multiple extensions that I deleted one of them. Yes, you're right. It should have show here. I'll have to have the team take a look as to why it's not showing here. Is there any other questions? So I'll show this real quick while we wait. It could take a while, but before the demo, I took a screenshot of so I did the same action on the VM West that I showed you, and after it succeeded, the status changed from creating to succeeded. And so that essentially completes the flow here.
Is this for Arc servers only, or can you do a combination of Arc and Azure VMs at the same time?
No, this is for Arc servers. Because Azure VMs, since they're in Azure, they should, my understanding is that by default, they should have those capabilities, present. But since these are machines that you're bringing from on-premise or multi-cloud, to enjoy those benefits that Azure has, you have to unbuild. Okay, I don't know. This is it. I wouldn't want us to wait for this to be done, but
Awesome.
I will stop sharing. Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I do think we
Thank
have one question in the chat, which is this available today under a preview link, or this isn't available yet, right? It's still coming soon.
Yes, you're right. It's not available yet. We still have a few things that we need to do. And once we have it available, like I mentioned, we will be adding management services to them, gradually, like one at a time. But if you have any feedback on the user experience or any requests, suggestions, please feel free to ping me or ping the chat, and I'll get back to you. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing, George. Thank you, George, Stefano, Vishal, and Maddie for all sharing today, and everyone for attending. We really appreciate your support. Next time, we're going to have an exciting session, and it's going to be dedicated to Windows Server capabilities with Arc as well ahead of the Ignite launch. So looking forward to that, and thank you all for joining. Have a great rest of your month, and we'll be proceeding to keep these regularly on the second Thursday of every month. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.